Imagine a world of knights, castles, and majestic cathedrals. A world where faith, honor, and duty guide every action. Welcome to the medieval era. This era, a time of great transformation and upheaval, began with the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD. The Roman Empire, once a beacon of civilization, where arts, culture, and law thrived, fell into disarray. The grandeur that was Rome, the vast territories it held, its complex governance, and the peace it maintained, known as Pax Romana, had all but faded away. The empire's fall sent shockwaves through Europe, plunging it into a period of chaos and disorder. The once unified Roman Empire was fractured into numerous small kingdoms, each vying for power. The concept of centralized authority was replaced by a decentralized system that would come to be known as feudalism. In this new system, land was the primary source of power, and those who owned it, the lords, held sway over those who worked it, the serfs. But the fall of Rome didn't just lead to a reshuffling of political power. It also created a vacuum in the moral and spiritual lives of the people. This void was filled by the Church, which rose to prominence, becoming a beacon of hope and solace in these turbulent times. The Church provided spiritual guidance, yes, but it also offered structure and stability, something the people craved in the wake of Rome's fall. It became a unifying force, a common thread weaving together the fabric of the medieval world. So as the Western Roman Empire crumbled, a new world order was emerging. The stage was set for a time of knights and nobles, of serfs and clergy, of castles and cathedrals, of faith and honor. The stage was set for the medieval world. In the ashes of the fallen empire, a new system took root: feudalism. This was not an overnight change, but rather a gradual evolution of power dynamics, a shifting of the old world order into a new, stratified hierarchy. At the top of this pyramid sat the king, the supreme ruler, owner of all lands. Yet his rule was not absolute. The king bestowed parcels of his land to his most trusted lords, his vassals, in exchange for their loyalty and military service. This was the essence of feudalism, a symbiotic relationship where land, or fief, became the currency of power. These lords, in turn, granted portions of their land to knights, the armored warriors of the medieval world. The knights pledged their swords to the lords, promising to fight in their name. This was not a mere transaction, but a sacred bond, a solemn vow of fealty that bound them together. Yet the engine that powered this entire system was the serfs, the humble tillers of the land. Tied to the soil, serfs worked tirelessly, producing the food and goods that sustained the entire feudal pyramid. In return, they received protection from their lords, a sense of security in a tumultuous world. Interwoven with this strictly hierarchical system was the pervasive influence of the Church. The Church was a unifying force, a universal entity that held immense sway over all levels of society. Its moral authority often rivaled, and at times even surpassed, the secular power of the king himself. Yet, despite its seemingly impenetrable structure, feudalism was not without its flaws. The system's rigidity became its Achilles heel, as social mobility was virtually non-existent. The serfs, the backbone of the feudal economy, were often the ones who bore the brunt of this inequality, and so, over time, the very foundations of feudalism began to crumble. Discontent simmered among the serfs. Ambitious lords sought more power. The Church struggled to maintain its influence. The world was changing, and with it so too was the feudal system. Feudalism, a rigid social structure, held the medieval world together, but it also sowed the seeds of its own destruction. In a world where the physical was often harsh and unforgiving, the spiritual realm offered solace and hope. Welcome to the medieval era, a time when the Church was not just a place of worship, but a commanding force that shaped society, politics, and culture. The Church was a beacon of hope for the common folk, providing spiritual solace amidst the hardships of life. In the medieval world, the Church was more than a spiritual institution. It was a formidable power that held sway over the hearts and minds of people. The clergy, with their divine authority, had a significant influence on the societal norms and values. They were the moral compass of the community, guiding people on the path of righteousness. The Church also played a pivotal role in politics. Kings, queens, and nobles often sought the Church's blessing to legitimize their rule. The Church's endorsement was seen as the divine right to rule, cementing the authority of the monarchy. The influence of the Church wasn't limited to the domestic sphere. It extended beyond the borders of kingdoms and nations, leading to one of the most significant events of the medieval era, the Crusades. The Crusades were a series of holy wars, sanctioned by the Church, with the goal of reclaiming the Holy Land from the Muslims. This period saw an unprecedented spread of Christianity, further bolstering the Church's power and influence. The Church's cultural impact was also profound. From art and architecture to literature and music, the Church's influence was pervasive. Gothic cathedrals, illuminated manuscripts, and sacred music are all testaments to the Church's cultural dominance. But the Church wasn't just about power and control, it was also a source of education and charity. Monasteries served as centers of learning, preserving and transmitting knowledge. The Church provided care for the sick and the poor, reinforcing its image as a beacon of hope amidst the harsh realities of the medieval world. The Church's dominance was unquestionable, but as with all things, change was inevitable. The medieval world was a complex tapestry of power, faith, and change, and the Church, with its immense power, was a key thread in this intricate weave. The world was changing, and with it, the medieval era was drawing to a close. The medieval period, stretching from the 5th to the 15th centuries, was a time of significant transformation. Yet, it was the events of the 14th and 15th centuries that truly signaled the end of this era. One of the most devastating factors was the Black Death, an unforgiving plague that swept across Europe. It's estimated that between a third and a half of Europe's population perished during this time, creating a profound shift in society. With fewer people to work the land, labor became a valuable commodity. The feudal system, which was based on the labor of peasants, began to crumble. Simultaneously, the 100 Years' War raged on between England and France. This long-standing conflict had far-reaching impacts, not least of which was the rise of professional armies, replacing the feudal levies that had dominated the battlefields of Europe. This shift helped to centralize power, forming the foundations for the modern nation-state. The Church, which had held significant power throughout the medieval period, also began to lose its grip. The Great Schism, where 2 and at one point 3 individuals claimed the papal throne, caused widespread disillusionment and weakened the Church's authority. Amidst all this, a new era was dawning. The Renaissance, a time of rebirth and rediscovery, was taking root. The rise of humanism, focusing on the potential and achievements of individuals, was a stark contrast to the theocentric world of the Middle Ages. The invention of the printing press in the mid-15th century helped to spread new ideas, further accelerating this transition. The medieval era, a time of knights and castles, faith and feudalism, ended not with a whimper, but with the roar of change. As the feudal system collapsed, the Church lost its authority, and nation-states began to form. The world was stepping into the light of a new era, and so the curtain fell on the medieval period, paving the way for the Renaissance and the modern world as we know it. The medieval era, a time long past, continues to echo in our present. Cast your thoughts back to the dawn of the medieval era, a time when old empires crumbled and new kingdoms rose, a time characterized by the rise and fall of feudalism, where lords and vassals were entwined in a complex web of mutual obligations. A system that, despite its inherent challenges and eventual decline, laid the groundwork for the concept of property rights that we recognize today. Reflect further on the immense power wielded by the Church, an institution that held sway not just over the spiritual lives of people, but their secular lives as well. The Church played a pivotal role in shaping the moral, social, and political landscape, its influence still resonating in our contemporary society. Its architectural marvels, its contributions to art, music, and education continue to inspire and educate. Then consider the end of the medieval era, a period of profound transformation. The advent of new technologies, the Renaissance, the Age of Discovery, and the Reformation all marked turning points that signaled an end to the medieval world and a transition into the modern era. These changes not only reshaped the world, but also the human mind, ushering in new ways of thinking, questioning, and understanding. But what of the lasting impact of the medieval era on our world today? The echoes of the medieval world can be heard in our laws, our politics, our culture, and even our psyche. It's in the castles and cathedrals that dot our landscapes, in the tales of knights and damsels that fill our storybooks, and in the democratic principles that underpin our societies. The medieval world, a time of turmoil and transformation, has shaped the world we know today. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity, a spirit that continues to forge ahead, always evolving, always enduring, always